And if you could please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, we'd like to welcome everyone who's here and also our viewing audience at home.
Is it all right if I turn this on until we start the projector, or is the projector ready?
Sure, go.
It feels I'm in the dark.
Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. I'm not aware of any emergency modifications.
There are none?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That was unanimous. And the approval of minutes.
Which we do have an update, which was emailed to you earlier, the new versions here and the current versions in the back for those in the audience.
Right. Are there any comments? Was there a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting?
I'll move to approve.
Right, so it's the meeting of the 23rd and the closed session of February 6th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that was unanimous. And we'd like to welcome our student representatives. And you have a...
You'll notice we have two this evening.
I noticed we had two.
I'm going to take over the table with students pretty
It's
soon.
I didn't know if with my vision I was seeing double, but anyway, it's great to have you here. And we were going to have you comment all through the meeting, right? Isn't that what we've talked about
Yes.
before? But do you have a report to start with? Is there anything you want to say?
We do. So Stella is, as you know, our senior rep, and she is also in the play and has rehearsal this evening. So
Okay.
she's going to be leaving around 6. And then Gray is our sophomore rep, so he'll be staying for the rest of the evening. But they both have, I think, little student reports or that they're.
Sure.
You're going to tell us a little about the play. Give
Sure,
us a
I
little
can talk
plug.
about it. It's really great. It is a crazy show. It's called Crazy for You, if you didn't know. It's a Gershwin show, so it's old school. There's wonderful music, a lot of tap dancing, and it's really been a good learning experience for us all. We all have had to learn a lot of tap, and right now it's a little shaky because it's a big show, but we're looking forward to having break and being able to kind of clean it all up. I think it's gonna come together very nicely. So yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing it.
So it's at Matilaha,
It's
March.
at Matilaha in the second and third weekend in March.
Okay.
Yes.
Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday matinee?
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Hello?
Is there a Sunday or no?
Yeah. Yes.
she said Sunday. Sorry.
Great.
And then Gray, were you going to report a little bit on our Black History Month?
Yes, actually, I had quite a bit to talk about Black History Month, actually. Is that in my fourth period class today, which is mainly composed of sophomores and about 3 juniors, I asked about their exposure to Black History Month so far, and most of them, except for one student that is in leadership, forgot that it was Black History Month. We have had little to none exposure to it at all. We think, from what I've been told, that there was a couple pictures of members of the Civil Rights Movement.
In
but
the office, like the hanging?
just in the
office?
library,
Oh,
from
in
what
the
I remember.
library, maybe that's
And
what I saw.
and there was a film, or not film, but there was a video made for it that only, from what it seems like, only leadership showed in their class. No other classes cared to show it. And I just wanted to say that I think it's extremely important in this time after Matilaha and what happened recently at Nordhoff that we really have more exposure to more education on the subject of civil rights and everything to try and give people an understanding.
Thank you. We should put that on the list for Cheryl.
That certainly is.
Yeah, to
Yep.
check in on. I mean, we're only halfway through the month, and I know
Right.
you guys have, what are those writing prompt things?
Ranger response?
Ranger responses. Maybe there's still time for.
Oh,
Yeah,
Maybe
they're
there's a
out for
plan
next
for a
week.
grand finale.
Well,
We
So
hope.
even though we're halfway through
Oh,
the month,
you're
they're
right.
out
They're
all
out
next
all
week.
next
So there
week,
is really
so-
only like 1 week left of February in
I
school.
think I can,
Week
I
and a
think I
half.
can. Thank you. That's
Good.
to
Thanks for bringing that up.
Remind us all.
Any other thoughts, comments before we move on?
We talked to the other representatives. We all got together today and kind of just talked about some of the things that are on the schedule tonight, and also about Black History Month. And one of Arlie, the junior representative, he was saying how he found that with high schoolers, it's kind of a lost cause in some ways. That some of our peers and people are kind of not, it's hard to get them engaged about things like Black History Month, but that he found that maybe doing things earlier, doing things at Matilaha or even elementary school more diligently to kind of start those habits earlier. I don't know, that was just his kind of comment and take on the whole matter, just because it is hard to get high schoolers to be involved in things. I don't know if that makes sense. I know we've all experienced it, that high schoolers tend to be a little bit more reserved about things like that and not as initiative taking. So I think, if you inspire them young, it might bleed into high school a little bit more.
Well, and I think it's important for our curriculum. Marilyn probably knows that it grows as the child grows, right? So I know, like in second and third grade, I know they're drawing pictures and they're hearing stories about Rosa Parks and other civil, right? And in seventh and eighth grade, I think those things are happening. But what needs to happen is at the high school level is maybe more something that's more interesting. Like you've all heard those stories, you've all done those things, so it turns into civics. It turns in. I mean, look at some of the stuff that the Parkland students are doing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Their activism and how that relates to Black History Month and the Civil Rights Movement and that's going to be more interesting to you guys. And how do you do that at the same time that you're already teaching math and history?
Exactly,
You're doing
yeah.
your.
And I don't want you to be a lost cause, because then what are we?
Yeah, I know.
I was gonna say the same. I would never consider you guys a lost cause.
Yeah, I just know some people at Nordoff are a little bit more like they don't take it as seriously, and it's hard to get them to take it seriously. So if it is made something that is required by teachers to have them, write a response on a video they watch or something like that. I know we did that for Hispanic Heritage Month. We did like ranger responses after we watched videos about historical Hispanic figures. So I don't know. I think that having a little bit more engagement and requiring it might make it more aware around the campus that it is Black History Month, rather than just like a couple banners and half of the classes announcing stuff. So
Well, and you're not the only ones, because we kind of felt that as a board in the last couple of years, saying, you know what, we need to do more than just say, yep, here's another resolution and we're going to vote about it. We need to read important parts of it, and we need to sort of remind the community of these important things instead of just letting it pass quickly.
I think this is good feedback. As we heard Cheryl talking at the community meeting, she said, we've gotten a little complacent in all of this, right? And so I think that's a good reminder that we do need to start early, because I think you're absolutely correct about that, just regardless of whether or not high schoolers are lost causes.
I take it back.
No, you'll never live that down now, so too bad. It's permanent. The other thing that we've seen in literature, and I think Cheryl is also looking in that direction, is experiential learning, right? Rather than sitting and just watching a movie or listening to a lecture, which can transmit information, experiential stuff can do it even more so. And so I just want to put a plug in for that kind of stuff as well, because it is a little more interesting than just sitting and getting lectured. But I know that we're heading in that direction. And so your feedback is timely and absolutely on track, so thank you.
I was just gonna say, I wish Cheryl were here, because I think, especially after Matilaha and the staging for additional curriculum there, and Angie, maybe you could speak to it. It seems like a big issue is curriculum and all the stuff that teachers have to cover. And, it's like it's one thing to sort of in February remind everyone it's Black History Month, but if it's not already built into the curriculum, and you've got all this other stuff you have to do, and then you've got the exam coming, it's like really hard to get it all in.
I would, thank you for saying that, because I was sitting here thinking about, we have lots of resolutions, and there are so many important things that we should be addressing, but February is a terrible month to address anything, because you have a week off, you have presidents, you have Valentine's Day, you have, it just, at least at the elementary level, I don't, and then we're supposed to do dental health in February as well. Like, you just keep layering it on, and we were just having the conversation, why don't we push it, even though it's supposed to be in February, why don't we just do it in January? And then it relates to so many things. So that is an issue. And it's very difficult to make sure you're addressing the core curriculum. And then adding, even though this should all be part of the core curriculum, I don't want us, I'm trying to say.
Right. I went to, I visited the US Congress years ago, and I noticed they don't do much, except they pass just resolution after resolution about this is, whatever day and this whatever day, just because it's so easy to do. I'm wondering if we need to step back and say, let's focus on something for a month and not have 3 resolutions in a month saying this is, the month of this and the month of this and the month of this, that we just be more strategic about it and say, this is going to be the month we focus on this. And scale back, pick the things that are most important. We have 9 months, however many months we have, and we look at that. I don't know, just something for us to think about in the future. I was thinking that before I came here tonight, but not today, but another day.
See, I wanted to add on to what Stella was saying earlier about education, and a really good experience that I had was when I actually I attended Oak Grove for 6th and 7th grade, and in 6th grade, they took us to the upper campus, and we had a whole meeting, or not a whole meeting, but like a seminar almost, on the use of the word retarded. They called it the R word, and they actually had someone up on stage that has been called it multiple times. They were born with a disability, and they gave us a whole background on it, and honestly it changed a lot of my views. Before I was uneducated about it. I thought it was just a word, but after that meeting, after that whole seminar on it, it really changed my view. It changed my perspective, and seeing the perspective of actual people with disabilities and everything. And
So it doesn't take a lot, but it takes something,
it does, yeah. It doesn't take too much. It just takes someone's experience.
the right thing.
Yes.
All right, well, really good input.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks a lot, and you can go to practice or this
I
meeting's
have a couple minutes.
good, because this meeting's probably not going to be super late, but there are more things to do. Public comments. We have a speaker form from Steve Weed. Welcome. Come on up.
Thank you. I'm a walking biohazard, so I'm not going to stay for the rest of the meeting.
You had several different agenda items, so I thought maybe right now is a good time.
Okay, that sounds good. Just a reflection back to you, Stella. You're in drama, and it helps to teach you empathy. Much as Jane said, if it matters to you, like it did at the Parkland students, you find a way. I met a young woman this summer up in Seattle who comes from Colombia, and at 15, she started a student organization for environmental causes because she saw it in her homeland. If it matters to you, then kids aren't dummies, they'll get it. So kudos for you guys to being strong on that. So that's number 1.5. Just want to make a couple of comments on the website. It's always a process, and even before the new skin went up, I saw little improvements, better organization of content, more resources available. This is a big change, and it'll take a while to get the wrinkles worked through, but it's a good start. My only comment is I know there's a Spanish translation there. It's not so readily apparent. Be nice if it was more obvious to people when they hit the homepage, for what it's worth. So now on to number 3. This is Measure J stuff, and so this is going to serve 2 points. I actually went to the last Citizens Oversight Committee meeting and kind of saw the functioning of that organization, and I realized that most of the real decisions happen in this room at this time. So I decided not to join that committee. I will say 2 things about that. First of all, we have a in-house bond manager, and possibly we'll have a second one, and that compares to having had a contractual agreement with an outside organization. That's an example of out-of-the-box thinking. I don't know too many other districts that would do that. And so I say that because I think that we're doing okay with that. I was very encouraged by the checklist of projects that seems to be underway. It's good to see that. But I would also say that whoever happens to end up in the superintendent's position for a while needs to show that same type of leadership. We can't be a normal school district following all the platitudes that happen. We're normal school districts because we're a small school district and we have challenges. So that's kind of a segue into simply thank you, Andy. Yeah, I wouldn't move to Texas, but I understand your reasons and I wish you the best.
Thank you.
So the last thing is the 7-Eleven committee. Whatever happens with the appointments and nominations tonight, this is a challenging issue emotionally for this valley. And I know that the board's done a lot of work on this already, and I just wish you the best however it turns out. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, are there more public comment? Great. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I'm Annette Mendoza-McCoy.
And can you speak a little bit louder?
Annette Mendoza-McCoy. I'm a local licensed marriage family therapist, and I am a mother of 2 children that attend this school district. I was here last meeting, and I was disappointed in reviewing the minutes of last meeting and maybe I am not being very clear, so I'm going to do my best. And I'm also maybe not be informed of the correct protocols and procedures and how to proceed. But I represent myself and also a group of concerned people in town that really want to be a part of the vetting and process of hiring the new superintendent, with the assurances that they would represent and prioritize our cultural values of inclusion, diversity, and equity. But the second agenda of such a group that we're forming is to also assist in participating in the accountability, monitoring, and tracking of improving the culture of equity, diversity, and inclusion in our school district, with marked, measurable improvements demonstrated systematically, not on an individual school site basis, but systematically. And this would include 2 things in particular: the LCAP reports, updates, and reviewing, especially in the equity division component, as well as the tracking of the school climate surveys. I'm trying to be as specific as I can. I want to be a part of some improvements here. I don't have time to come to meeting after meeting. I would like to know, does this board need to assign the convening of such a committee? There's already, again, a group forming, and I hope I get the name accurate because there was some kind of importance about what to call ourselves, but it was the Ojai, let me find it, Alliance on Education Equity. And so hopefully that could be an agenda item on the next meeting, and with some specific feedback from you guys as how do we participate and all those things. requested. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
So I don't know if you're aware, when you speak something in a public comment section and it's not on our agenda, we're not allowed to have a conversation about it right now because other people would say, oh, well, I didn't know you were gonna talk about that, I have something to say. So we take what you say, we're writing it, and then we can talk about it in the future, just.
So I can't wait till the end of, there's nothing going to be talked about it, and so maybe wait till next week.
Yes, so look for the agenda and for us to, well, we might bring it up we have a board member future agenda item section. And we did, like last, I think I'm allowed to do this. Last meeting, we had someone come and ask the board to create a resolution for climate change. So then, as a board members, we reached out to the superintendent who created one, and we're voting on it tonight. So the same thing would happen this evening. The board would individually send information to the superintendent saying, I'd like to talk to people publicly about the diversity committee and the tracking, and LCAP. Maryland does a lot of LCAP meetings and have a specific agenda item so we can all talk about it publicly. And then it gets on the agenda.
So, Dan, let me just make a couple comments. Marilyn, you can speak more to this.
I'm behind the podium.
But we do have extensive public LCAP meetings, don't we? Where people can meet with you and contribute to that process.
Marilyn, would you mind speaking at the podium? Because I know if people are at home interested, they can't hear the audience.
Although we do need to be careful about going into too much detail because it's not on the agenda. So,
But we have had
but
three,
announcing meetings shouldn't be a problem.
we've had 3 meetings regarding the LCAP, and we focused those meetings on the different goals. So the first meeting we had was a math meeting. We had the parent survey first, then had the meeting regarding student achievement, and that's goal 1 of the LCAP. Then it wasn't a specific LCAP meeting, but the second meeting, the community forum, where we had so much input on really goal 2. So I have all that input from goal 2 that will go into when we write the LCAP. Then the third meeting we had last week on goal 4, which is student wellness, and we presented a survey first, got the results of the survey, and then had the meeting on vaping. So.
Great, thank you. And I think future meetings are all noticed on the website, which is a very nice transition into talking about the website. If there are no more public comments, David, do you want to?
Okay. Let's see if the magic works. Off to a good start. All right, so as you may have seen, we did restructure our entire website. This is our district office homepage. Gonna scroll down a little bit, and I'll
David,
show
before you actually start walking us through the website, they have read the memo, so no need to reread it, but let's just summarize, other than actually having a more usable website, can you just talk to us a little about why we began making this transition a number of months back?
Absolutely. So I think the number one issue was fragmentation of communications. So in an emergency event, we would go on our website, update our website, maybe let our people know through Remind. We might send out a Blackboard Connect message, get on Facebook, send another message. Unifying that along with 8 other sites at the time, it just became a task to make sure every person was represented and had the correct information the way that they receive it. And so this website on the back end is actually powered by Thrillshare, and I actually think I should go ahead and just show you because it's very easy to see.
While we're on the homepage,
Uh-huh.
I liked that question about the language. If somebody is using a browser in Spanish, will this come up as Spanish?
Yeah, I'm going to scroll down just a second to our events and live feed, which is part of Thrillshare. I'm going to go up to the top really fast, and I'm going to choose English, change it to Spanish. The page will reload, and as I scroll down, the events and live feed, everything, the news articles, will all be translated into Spanish.
Right. Oh, that looks nice.
Which
And
I have to say, I mean,
Yeah.
because I've done a lot of, gone to sites, I've had to go to sites that are often in French or German, and that's the spot. That's the spot where you always look.
Right.
So that's really
Yeah.
helpful that it's not somewhere else. It's like when you get on a site, if it comes up in French, you automatically go right to where that word English is.
Yeah.
And, or sometimes it's a flag, you know,
Right.
to show you Great Britain, you know, whatever, but.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be rather than a drop down to have both links there, because that doesn't automatically say, come here for Spanish.
Yeah, and the word in Espanol.
Yeah, I will put that down in here,
But if
just
you,
to see if that's an option for us.
if your browser is in Spanish, isn't that what you asked?
right, that was
Dave?
my
Does
question.
that-
If
does
your
it
browser's
automatically come up?
defaulted,
You know,
I'll bet not.
I honestly have never tested it because if I put my browser into Spanish, I can't do anything. I've just never tried it. Maybe I'll work with Javier and we could try that. And I mean, I know that Windows, you can actually turn your Windows computer to everything goes to Spanish, but I've never, I mean, I've done it once to Portuguese on accident and I had to reformat my computer. That was many years ago. Because you got to find out how to change it back in that language. So I will put that in as a feature request with our vendor and I'll find out. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, I know you hate micromanaging, but I guess another option would be to have the word, instead of statement of the obvious, that it's in English, saying English, say Espanol.
Right.
So if you click on it, then it changes to Spanish, as
Yeah.
opposed to, who needs someone to tell you it's in English when you know it's in English?
Right. Even if we did language and
Yeah.
it just does a drop down, I think there's a better way to do it, absolutely. So this is Thrillshare. I'm going to hover over here to platform and go to live feed. This is our communication hub. That's difficult to see there. Let me make some things blue. We'll do SMS as well. Go ahead and go to test. There we go. All right. So I've selected Facebook live feed and SMS. So from here I could actually send a text message, post to our live feed on our website, and post to Facebook all in one interface. Right here you can't see it very well, but there's voice call. We can do a text to speech voice call. Same message goes out in little robocaller, translates it for you.
it's not in Javier's voice.
It can be though, so we have the option. If I choose voice call, you actually have text to speech and record audio as the option. So we could do, if we want a more personal message, and there absolutely is a time I think where you don't do a robocaller. Sometimes it needs to come from one of us, and we use that record audio. This Thrillshare app is also an app on our phones. So now our principals and even people we give the option can record a message, and let's say we provide someone in a PTA or PTO organization the ability to record and send a message home. They can schedule the message with approval, and our principal can say, yes, this can go out tonight at 5 o'clock, or say, no, we're not going to do that. So it's a really, really powerful system. And now that you see kind of those options there, you'll see how those look when you actually go to our website. And
Which
so
I love
that-
the colors, by the way.
Oh,
I love that picture.
We are working on better pictures. This website is 3 times larger than our last website. So picture quality, I mean, we really need like DSLR level professional pictures. Even phone pictures just don't turn out very well, and I'll show you in a minute. They're very good. They're just not quite like that picture. So when we post into our events, this is a link to our Google calendars at our sites. So our office managers are already updating those calendars, regularly. Everything shows up. We have our live feed right here, and this is all in the app as well. And then we have a news feed which we are thinking is going to be primarily principal messages and any articles that the sites think would be very useful for parents to see. So we're doing our district newsletters currently. And I'll just go in real fast and you can see there's our district newsletter. So it's easy to navigate, easy to find, very easy to search. The search function on this new web presence is phenomenal. So we've been getting a lot of good feedback about that already. And I also have on here, so reducing redundancies, I think that really is huge. Like this newsletter, when we send it out to our news portal, can also cross-post on Facebook and Twitter. And that just it reduces that amount of the messaging, getting things to multiple places. And I think if it's easier for our admin teams, it will get used more often to greater effect.
So are they using this now when I get what used to be a text message?
Yes.
It still comes through as a text message, but
Yeah.
they're using this to do it.
They're
Okay.
using ThrillShare, yeah.
Got it.
So the text number will change. And it was actually very timely. I wish I could lie to you and say that we knew it. But Remind actually started charging
Right, on
2 or
Verizon.
3 days before we rolled out our new web presence. So the timing could not have been better. And we really made it there. And then I wanted to show you.
So just to be sure everyone knows, Remind was the former system that was used if we were sending out text to families. That what David's saying is that Verizon, obviously the biggest cell phone provider, realized that they were missing out on this cash opportunity of actually charging for sending those messages. And so at the very end of January, right before we went live, they began charging. So we were actually going to have to eliminate that system because of cost. Had we not made this migration anyway. So as David said, we look really smart on the back end, but we had no idea that was going to actually happen as well. But that was one more reason why this really does help us.
Yeah. And I really do believe that the strength is that unified communication piece. And we are taking some steps. We're going to create some Twitter accounts. I think we do have a lot of stakeholders that actually do use Twitter, especially after the several natural disasters we've had. It seemed Twitter was one of the only places with accurate, up-to-date information. Caltrans, all of the big names out there are actually providing better information on their Twitter feeds than you can find on their websites or the DOT website, for example. During the Summit Boulder incident 2 weeks ago, that was really, Twitter was my spot to get information that was actually accurate, including from people driving up the road saying, no, it's clear. So that's one step we are still in transition on. So I just wanted to show you Topa Topa. They posted some really great pictures. And I love that it's full screen. It's really big. It's huge when they go to the site. They're just presented with these great images. And then if we scroll down a little bit, you've got everything right there. Dawn's been posting her live feed. They've got their events in there. And they even have a news article about Topa Topa schools filling buckets. So we're definitely using it already. And we're just going to keep adjusting and getting better.
The pictures are great, but those kids go to Matilaha now.
Well,
Our new pictures are old.
yeah. I think when I did the website the first time, those students were 5-6 years out. And then we got brand new ones, and I took some of them, and then Andy and I were refreshing, and he's like, I think it's time to go, because these kids have just now graduated. And they were freshmen in the photo. So, yeah. Getting good pictures. It's really difficult, but ThrillShare makes it so much easier because Dawn and Dave Munson were able to use the ThrillShare app, go take photos on their phone or pull them up from their gallery, and upload them to their website right there. Instead of having to sit down in front of the computer, bring them in, where did they go? Are they in Google Photos or in the iCloud? This is just so much simpler for our admin team. And the results are stunning because it took me months to do that before, and they were able to do this in minutes right from their gallery. Like, I've got some great photos. So that's a really, really positive thing.
Terrific. Well, thank you.
Couple of little things.
Sure.
I just noticed we're not in the directory at all, the school board, at least on the app.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to contact us, they should be able to do that.
Absolutely.
Also calendars. Years ago when I first got on the board, that was like my obsession with the website is just calendars, and I just whatever we can do so that so often people just dad or mom doesn't know exactly when they get out of school, or is this a different day, or just to be able to get that information quickly remains difficult.
So this is the events page. I wish it was a little bit higher contrast.
Intuitively, events isn't the place I would put the calendar.
Okay, well, I could change it to calendar from
Yeah.
events.
Well, I don't know. I
When
mean,
you
I'm
say
I'm
calendar, are
just
you
one
saying
human.
bell schedule? Or?
Yeah, bell schedule
Okay.
is part of that, right? So, because they're kind of two different things. Events I would think would be special things.
Right.
Whereas just what
When
time
is
did
my
they get
kid
out
out
today?
today?
Yeah, I think we've taken a really deep dive and tried to simplify. We tried to put them into bins. That was our logical construct we were working on. So I'm going to click on Explore at Topa Topa, and I'm going to really hope that under Students is the bell schedule and the bus schedule. So let's go ahead and look. Let's see if it's accurate and up to date.
Yeah, that used to be the problem. I was like, well, what bucket am I, am I a parent, am I a student, what am I looking for?
Oh, it opened it in a new page. Let me link that to you.
You know, again, I'm just one person, but I think information should be under its subject, not who's
Sure.
going to use it. I've always found that very frustrating to imagine, is this a parent thing? Is this a student thing? Personally, again, I know.
And where would you go for vacations when
Bermuda.
school starts?
The academic calendar,
Yeah, our academic calendar. Yeah.
and where's that?
Should be under parents, but I'm scared now.
All those vacations are in the events also on the district homepage.
Yeah, I don't see.
Yeah, it wouldn't be.
I don't see
intuitive-
academic calendar, but that is a great example. Yeah,
Yeah,
we should
it wouldn't
definitely
be
have that.
intuitive for me to look under parents to find the calendar.
I think that would really be something we could just put right front and center.
Yeah.
I mean, academic calendar, I would imagine. Well, those three things: bus, bell, academic calendar, really are. I mean, that's probably
Most
bulk of our
people-
traffic,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
The
I'm going to
only-
put those down here as well, and I'll get that done.
Can you get analytics off of this so you can find out where
Yes,
people
thank you
go?
for asking.
Oh.
I'm very excited, and I nerd out on it regularly. We can track all click-throughs through our PDFs. When we send out our board agendas, we actually do it through Thrillshare now. So we saw that we had 83 opens on our board agenda this last time.
Wow.
So I mean, MailChimp gives us that as well, but now I have it on the website, and it's MailChimp's would be click-throughs through MailChimp, but now I have total clicks. So now we can say, well, we got 20 from MailChimp and we got 60 from this other avenue. Maybe this is where we need to focus our energy and effort. And that kind of data is huge. It really allows us to tailor the message and make sure it gets to the right people the way they want to see it. So.
And David, I haven't, I did look at the website and do a couple of things, but sitting here listening to that, I remember one time I went to an open house, I think at Miners Oaks, and I know I was in a 4th grade classroom, but I couldn't remember the teacher's name. So I went school Miners Oaks, and then I did I think it had classrooms or teachers, and it listed all the teachers, but it said room 23 or room 20, and I was like, well, I don't, so I imagine there's parents who don't really know their teachers' names, or especially to send them an email, you have to know their first name.
Right. So
So
what we tried to do is we alphabetized by last name, because we found in talking with our stakeholders, most people knew the last name. It wasn't always that they knew the grade or the room number, but everyone seemed to know the last name.
Okay.
So we alphabetized everything via that process. And we've had some of the risk management meetings that I've been to at BCOE, they warn against room number or grade number or really anything beyond an extension number and a name. And I'll absolutely, if the board wants us to, we'll do that. But that's kind of been our guidance, and so we've gone that direction. But alphabetizing by last name, I think, has been pretty successful.
No, I
so
think
far,
as a
so.
parent, you would know your child, the last, Mrs. So-and-so.
Again,
Mr.
it's
so-and-so.
most, 90%, so that's what we're trying for. I actually did just think of something I wanted to show you guys.
I would agree on the security concern. I think, I'd be nervous about too much information.
Yeah, and I try not to be.
Well, it has to be maintained.
Just the right amount.
Change
Right,
by
precisely.
You gotta go in.
And we definitely, in talking with principals and parents, our PTO, PTAs, most people knew they were looking for their, the last name. And they just needed the extension number and the email address. And like you said, they might not know the first name, so that works out really well that we have both email and extension number. I was going to show you really quick the athletics portal at Nordhoff. So we can see that we have some games in there, and as they go through and update them, they haven't updated them yet, but we will start putting scores in. I think that's really a cool thing, especially for our, engagement, getting people excited about it. You'll see, basketball season now, but we have, come on, show them. Oh, it's not showing you guys, but we have all the sports listed, everything's in there. And this is really going to be, I think, nice for, again, it shows away versus home games. And then when parents click on it, it navigates them to the destination. So if it's an away game at another high school, we load in the Google address of that high school. And so you can, like, if I clicked on Nordoff, it would take me through the app to that game. So I think that's really cool. It hasn't been a big issue in the past, but it's a nice thing. And people really appreciate it when they kind of go through and that makes logical sense. So I think it's really cool. I wanted to show you guys that.
Speaking of events like this, will it be prominent, the musical? And can you buy tickets through that portal, or,
I believe we use the Nordoff Drama portal, absolutely. Currently, you'd go to Explore Arts, and then you'd have the drama club right there, or the drama.
I find like it's
It's also on
several.
the district calendar. The district
Yeah.
calendar on the DO page.
To buy tickets, I believe you have to go to nhsmusic.com. So that's where the tickets are.
Right, I'm wondering if there's an easier way to add it to the website so
You know-
you can get there.
We have it on our homepage, our district homepage. But I think that Nordoff absolutely should have a live feed, saying you could buy your
Right.
tickets here and then link NHS Music right there.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be great.
I think so. Yeah, that's a good. I'm gonna put that into an email, Dave, as well.
Or on the events page, if, yeah,
Yeah, it's,
if there are links.
Yeah, the link is there. Yeah.
where's that?
Underneath it says more.
See all
There you go.
events.
See all,
Oh, here
for the,
on the live feed.
no, for the top of the calendar. See there?
Oh, it's on the calendar. I understand. What is the date?
March.
Oh, there you go.
Seventh.
Yeah, there it
Yeah,
is.
there you
There's
go.
the-
Oh, and there's
Oh,
a
there's the
link.
link to it. Good.
Great.
There it is. So yeah, we can do the same thing. Should definitely link that event as well.
Yeah, those might also be part of the rotating photos, right? The poster.
The front area is they call it the bulletin board. So we may develop. Actually, let me relaunch it so you can go along with what I'm saying.
Oh, right,
Yeah, this area here, we just chose to do the mission and welcome, but we can put bulletins there, and that's actually kind of the difference between the live feed and the bulletin board is, again, like you put things that you would normally put on a bulletin board outside your office, musical coming up, those types of events. So it's still new, it's still fresh. We kind of just went one direction, and we can always modify it. So we
It's a nice
appreciate the
clean
feedback.
layout.
A lot of good white space. It's clean, it's fast, and I wish I had a way to show you the app up there, but I would recommend checking out the app. It's available on Android and
I have downloaded
iOS
it.
App Store.
Yeah,
Do you have a way to find out, I mean, Michael was asking about, do you have a way to find out how many of them are happening in Spanish?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'll find out. How many Spanish translations we have on the website?
No, how many people
people
are
do a
accessing it in
Spanish
Spanish?
Drop down.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably not on my end. It's in the back end, but I will ask because I think I can get that. At least do maybe like a 3-month summary, just so we
Right.
know. Every 3 months I can get a report on.
Because then
how
we know,
many
hey, you
times.
know what, they're not going on it, we need to reach out to families and let them know. Or,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, I think changing it from English to language, or even just the option is Spanish, or then when it goes Spanish, the option is English. I like that. That would be really slick. I added
Or
that to him as well.
Espanol.
In Espanol, yes, of course, yeah. I always, whenever I find it, I try to change it over.
Yeah.
I have it like copied inside one of my sticky notes. It's just in Espanol because I hate doing the Control-Alt-Shift-click to get the accent over the end. So.
Good deal. All right.
All right.
Any
So-
other questions, comments? Yeah.
Just to again emphasize, the two things that I'm most excited about with the website, David's hit on both of them, but one is just the integration of a single system. We previously were going, Blackboard was sending out some of the information. If you wanted to find out what was on, being served in the school cafeteria that day, you had to download a separate nutrition services app that was altogether distinct from any of these other programs. The student data system spoke differently or at different times to some of the different systems. It just, it was really spread out. And so this brings things far more centralized, single location. has really good conversation back and forth between our HR, our personnel system, as well as our student database, and so that's going to help improve communications.
So the parent, the Zangle stuff is available through this?
No, I'm sorry. The Q system will update student information. So, like when we're sending out a text, we don't have to worry about was this a month-old student list, and so the parents who updated their contact information last week aren't updated, that sort of thing. But no, they would not be able to access the Q.
It's separate. We have the links in all the websites for
Right.
Parent Connect and Student Connect as well, respectively. What I did is I went way crazy on the back end, creating all of the scripts and logic that we need to do better with our data, because like Andy mentioned, we had so many disparate systems, and one was set up really well and one was a little old or a little kludgy. And so right now, if Javier Ramirez called me and said, I need all 9th grade students that are in this class and are male, I could get him a custom report to send a message only to those students. We haven't utilized that just yet, but one example is we now have call lists for all of our students, all of our certificated and classified staff by site. Whereas before, if San Antonio was closed or had a San Antonio specific issue like the Boulder, we could actually let our teachers and classified staff know one set of messaging and send all of our students another set of messaging. So before it was all hand built, lists of people, and maybe you missed someone in your text group and they didn't get the memo and a custodian shows up and no one's at school. So this is so much better for us, and we're only like over that initial startup phase where we kind of have things in place. An example would be lunch balances. We actually are looking at logic to send home a message that says your lunch balance is like negative $10. If you could, bring it up or bring in a check, that would be great. Thank you. Not to pester anybody, but sometimes people forget and life gets in the way. So there's a lot of things like that we're set up to do. We just haven't done yet, and I'm really excited, like I said, to kind of see how we do that better and just get the messaging, and it's all automated and takes it off of one person's desk, and then it gets done regularly and reliably, and I think people will appreciate that.
So a lot of work at first, but less work later.
Exactly, yeah, and the data sets are really the most amount of work, but we've got a fantastic connection at the BCOE, Ron Rains, who has just done so much good for us lately. We've automated all staff accounts, student accounts, a lot of our website logic and things, so we are doing far less manual entry. It's really nice.
Is this through VCOE?
This is not, no, just the updates through Q. So we use QSys as our main point of entry, so all of our office managers keep our emergency contacts in Q, parent-guardian contacts, email, and then all of that information gets ported every hour, basically, into Aptigee. And then attendance data comes at like 4:45, and then the call goes out at 5:15, for example.
But this is not, because I remember when I first got on the board, I think VCOE hosted our website and provided all the support services, so we're with somebody else now.
Completely away from VCOE for all web. Yeah, we're using Aptigee as the company and Thrillshare as the product. Cool. So we are hosted by Aptigee, and I think in Illinois is where their data center is, but it's fast and it's pretty.
Yeah,
so
we haven't mentioned, but the ADA aspect is great because there are a lot of lawsuits lately with people just suing over non-compliant websites.
Yeah, it's the ADA compliance. They have already portions of it in there, and there's new compliance measures coming soon, which actually audit everything. And so a small example is on those TOPA pictures. I went in and said TOPA students swimming at SEME, TOPA staff teachers dressed up as bees for Halloween. You really have to have someone who's blind has a voice reader. It tells you what the images are and kind of guides you through. So Thrillshare makes that possible. The last website presence I was doing everything by hand, and it was excruciating.
So this
Pop-Tarts with sunflower seeds is a really interesting combination.
This is the dining portion, and so you can get the app and pull up dining and see what's going on.
Yeah,
it's
it's
by
great.
day, so.
It's great.
Just one question. I mean, clearly you've added a lot of functionality and a lot of automation to save staff time. Is this, aside from those actual sort of staff recoveries, is this costing us more or less than what you did before?
It's costing us more fiscally, but I think that our staff was really struggling with proper messaging at the right times in the right areas. And so unifying things I think it's going to pay dividends in our perception and the way that we get good information out to staff or to students as well. I mean, I think it's going to be huge, but yeah, it is fiscally more expensive.
Well, the trade-off of time spent.
Yeah.
Well, and that's
is
hard to
tremendous.
quantify.
Greater time spent.
I truly, I think our principals put pictures on their website in minutes, which used to take over an hour. And so that happens every day, every time you have to update something.
The cost, though, was somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 6,000 net once we were able to eliminate
Yes.
some of the systems that we previously were using. But that also didn't account for the new costs that we would have been incurring for the tech. So it's actually less than
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
But that's before we start accounting for the reduced labor on doing this. But again, really, yes, there's the improvement in labor. I also love the fact that, again, as we've said, we have our systems that actually communicate, so we don't have groups or teachers who are being left off of text lists and that sort of thing, which has happened a lot.
Yeah.
But really, this is actually most importantly meant to be a tool that really meets our stakeholders in the way that they actually seek information. Going to a website is not usually the first, second, or even third way in which someone's trying to get information on the internet today. And frankly, on their phone, it's how many of us? I actually am an app minimalist, so I only have about 6 apps on my phone. Most people can scroll a good 3 or 4 times through their phone of how many apps they have. Having an OUSD app that has this information, again, in a central location, is able to get people information the way in which they're actually receiving it. We're able to send even the within the app that screen alert that will come right up, so you're able to see that same way that Waze will let you know when there's traffic or something. Really, it's about us being more proactive in communication as opposed to waiting for people to come to us. And so that's what the second piece I'm really excited about the system is that it helps us be far more information technology 2.0 or 3.0 as opposed to being just purely reactive.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing I would like to, so you're talking about this in terms of our stakeholders, but the other thing I would like to maybe talk about in the future is, we have a lot of people who come to town and don't even look at our public schools. They go straight to a private school. And it might be, I don't know what it would be, but if they had realtors who said, well, you should at least look at the public school site, and they're in LA and they can go on and, they'd have to click on school. The first thing they see is not really a school, like when you're searching for colleges, you look on, and some of them are really like they have this news page. It's really like, oh, that's so uninteresting. And then some of them, it's like pictures of people laughing and beautiful courtyards, and it's sort of like, oh, then you go in, you like kind of go into the rabbit hole. So what can we do to our first page that might be for visitors or prospective families or something? And then it's more.
I think
marketing.
I'm right there with you. I think Thatcher always blows me away when you open it. It's that movie or video,
Right.
whatever you want to say. It's just amazing. I am hopefully going to be taking a series of photos of all of our campuses in the right light at the right angles. It's my personal and also professional want to really have some stunning photos of all of our campuses. And right now it's perfect because we have rain, everything's wet, just looks amazing. So that's really what I was thinking, was having representations of all of our sites right there on the homepage as soon as you scroll through. But you're right, we also need to have, I think, photos of students and just interesting things that we're always doing. And we need to have some great football games, basketball games, volleyball. We need to have something. So I think our gallery will truly be immense. But that's
Well,
kind of the
even, right,
direction.
I know that Miramani is an elementary school. Maybe it says Miramani Elementary on there. I don't know, but
Just
if we click on
Miramani.
schools,
Yeah.
how do you,
Yeah, it's good. Good feedback.
so maybe it's just a separate page for prospective, right? You go on
Oh,
a college
that- yeah.
page, it says student, staff, prospectives, you have different,
It might be a
That's
place
good,
where we
yeah.
can,
maybe at the very,
put some
right.
of our highlights and
Yeah.
the things we're doing really great. I agree.
And back to your point, Jane, the importance of us making sure that, again, this is a resource for all of those stakeholders. We had a conversation yesterday at LT where we have a site administrator who utilizes social media extremely well, but doesn't necessarily put the same content onto the website in any form. And so we're having those types of conversations of, okay, you're doing great things for a closed group that, is for the current families, but if I was a prospective parent, I'd have no idea about how many great things are taking place at this site this week. And so by having this site, they're able to put in, that same thing that they're already doing, post it here though, and so now it goes into the live feed in addition to onto their social media page. And so now you're able to have people who may not be in that social media page, whether it's grandparents or prospective parents, able to get a better sense of all that really does take place at the campus. So absolutely, those are the sorts of things that we think that we can do better now.
And I think more, again, to bring it back to ThrillShare, that's already kind of in the works. So when you post to your live feed, you can still post to your Facebook feed. So those are the conversations that we're starting to have, which is this doesn't replace anything. It doesn't change the workflow, except it all comes through ThrillShare, and you still get the benefit of having that private group. And yes, maybe you don't post every private thing to your live feed, but you can have some of those really exemplary shots, and people can see what's going on the campuses.
Yep.
So, without having to ask them to do it in 2 places, or 3, or 4, 5.
Thank you, David.
One other quick comment, I'm not seeing the links to the board meeting videos on here.
On the
There's
online,
yeah,
you do.
the app is completely different
Oh,
from the
Yes,
web.
exactly.
So it's on the
Yeah.
web.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on the
so-
web, you just go
Okay.
board and then.
And then we're just noticing some differences in navigation from Android to Apple.
There are some differences, yes. Yeah, board agenda
Okay.
minutes video. Yep, there they are.
It's there, because I've
Great.
watched one of them recently.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to item 7.1.1, student teaching and fieldwork agreement. Andy?
Yep, this is the same MOU that we have come before you guys earlier in the year for other universities. Just Alliant International is a new school that we're partnering with to allow for student teaching, and so this is the MOU that permits us to do that.
I'll
Did-
look, go ahead. Good
I
question.
just I was curious if they approached us or we were.
It's when we actually have a student who
Oh,
we're
okay.
working with who then
Okay.
they come to us.
Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agreement.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? That passes unanimously. 7.1.2, initial board response and proposal to the OFT letter of intent. Andy, do you want to give us a little
Yep,
background
just
comment?
a reminder that we are in the first of a 3-year contract with OFT. As part of the contract, we agreed to no reopeners on salary. However, we are each permitted to open up one additional item automatically, and then more if mutually agreed to. Last month, OFT presented their sunshine letter, their initial statement of the articles they were interested in opening. And then this is our response, identifying the article that we wish to open, which is on working hours and including areas of professional development or timing for professional development. So we look forward to, as we've had now for at least the 4 years I've been here, very positive collaborative negotiations, and we're working right now on scheduling those dates. But this is the necessary legal step, final step before we're able to begin having those meetings.
Great, and for many important issues, we have public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any public comments on this item?
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, it was unanimously opened and closed with no public comment. Moving on to 7.3.1, approval of low-performing student block grant plan. And we're missing Cheryl tonight. Again, she's ill, that's why she's not here, but Andy?
Yep, I'm going to try to present in her stead, and thank you, Marilyn, for being here as well. Marilyn was also very involved in working with Cheryl on developing this plan, and so she's available to answer questions as well. The Low Performing Student Block Grant is a new funding initiative from the state this year. It was allocated out to districts based on the number of students who they classify as low performing on the state standard test. If you scored a 1 or a 2 on the CASP test in both categories, so that'd be in math and English, then the funding formula created this allocation for that student. So remember, the local control funding formula gives a particular supplemental add-on for students who are low income or foster, homeless, or English language learner, thank you. And so what this was doing is this was a similar type of add-on through LCFF, but was targeted at students who don't meet those demographic traits. And so this is for students who are neither special education on IEPs or, again, in one of those unduplicated count categories. And so the funding for this is very restrictive. When we initially received word that we had were eligible for these funds, we got very excited and thought this was our solution for the early literacy initiative that we've been talking about. This was my bean counting, Kevin. And then we've learned just recently that we were not able to use the funding for children who are below the grade at which they begin being assessed, which is in 3rd grade, so we wouldn't be able to use it for K2. And again, not only do we have to use it for the students who are being assessed on CASP, but it's really intended for those kids who fall into that that category of being below grade level. And so we are very excited. Cheryl and Marilyn put this plan together, and again, and ran it by Angie as well, and so we have support from her. But what this will bring is actually 3 TOSAs, teachers on special assignments, into the district for next year. And what it's really going to do is just leap us into a new stratosphere as far as the work that Cheryl has been focusing on with professional learning communities, as well as with using assessments to impact instruction. So I want to pull or draw your attention on the memo to a couple lines that help really identify what we're looking to accomplish. So page 2 of 4. About 2/3 of the way down that first paragraph. This includes identifying essential standards and regularly using assessments covering those essential standards to guide collaboration, instruction, and concrete feedback to students. So these teachers each are going to be responsible for one section of academic intervention at the middle school next year. And then they each are going to be involved in providing intervention after school at the elementary sites. So they will continue to have direct student contact at both the elementary and the middle school, but then they're going to be released a significant portion of the day to focus really on the creation of these databases of test questions to be able to help to drive the assessments driving the process. So,
And it'll only be 4th through 8th because they can't be helping 3rd graders because they haven't been tested yet.
it's going to be 3rd through 8th.
Okay.
3rd through 8th is the target of these services. So again, it's also going to be providing professional development that uses formative assessments aligned to the SBAC. Page 3 of 4, that first sentence in the second paragraph. Most important component of our plan will be a system that focuses on teaching, learning, and assessment for grades 3 through 8. So again, if that sounds familiar, that's very much what Cheryl's been talking about for the past year and a half of what we're trying to build out. Unfortunately, unlike any other, or most other districts in the county, without having the opportunity to hire teachers on special assignment or otherwise have more district office support for curriculum and instruction, we have not been able to roll these initiatives out in the past. And so this funding actually really helps us, like I said, be able to bring about these priorities. That last paragraph, in addition to directly serving students, the TOSAs will work together to create a compilation of formative assessments for grades 3 through 8 in the areas of reading, writing, and mathematics. Teachers will work in a collaborative team meeting regularly to evaluate the effect on student achievement and learning under the umbrella of a professional learning community. So again, this plan fully funded out of this one-time source of funds, so this is only going to be an initiative for one school year. But again, this is something that while we'd love to have the ability to have ongoing teachers on special assignments to work on these type of initiatives, this is one that really is, we need to get off the ground by being able to focus on reviewing these, thousands of questions from which to create the databases and then really actually testing it out and working it through. So we're excited to be able to bring this initiative before you and seek your authorization to be able to utilize this block grant for this purpose. Marilyn, was that adequate? Certainly wasn't as good as Cheryl, but hopefully adequate. Anything
Cheryl's worked so hard on this, and a real important component is having the TOSAs develop these formative assessments, because Cheryl spent a lot of her summer just developing tests.
Right.
10-question tests, form A, B, and C. And so it does take a lot of her valuable time. So having these TOSAs do that, in addition to teaching these support sections,
I think will really free up Cheryl, give an opportunity to a current teacher to become a TOSA, maybe for that year, and I think it's just a win-win for everyone.
And it also assists us this year when it comes to faculty layoffs. As you know, we've talked about the need to look at reducing our staffing level based on our continued declining enrollment. By having 3 TOSAs, that will actually help us, will buy us a little time to see if we have retirements or other pathways of funding to limit the number of pink slips that we have to send out next month. So
Well, that was
it's
my
also
question,
good for faculty.
How long, darn, only 1 year, because it is, I mean, so a teacher, a teacher would say, okay, I'm gonna leave 3rd grade to do this TOSA, or 4th grade, or whatever, but then I lose my classroom, because in a year, I mean, unless they're planning on retiring, what would be the advantage to a teacher to leave the classroom? I mean, I know they're still be working with students, but.
Marilyn or Angie,
You know,
would
I
either of you
can't
like
hear
to?
because that car is idling. Did you say what's the advantage for a teacher?
I mean, yeah, I mean,
What's
how
the
do we
incentive?
attract teachers to apply for this position?
You know, I think maybe there's a teacher who just wants a little break from the everyday 180 days getting ready for day of school, parent conferences, room environment, all of those things, and want to do something maybe he or she feels something might be more stimulating, working with adults, with the teachers, facilitating the PLCs, and then, but also still having some connection with students by teaching those sections. So it might be somebody like that just wants a little break from, say, 3rd grade, and then do it for a year and then come back to the classroom. One other thing is that we're receiving $227,000 for the block grant, but it might be more because some districts may not apply, and then there will be a
Reallocation.
allocation for the leftover monies, because there's a
Right.
pot of money, and if not all 1,000 districts apply, then there might be a second
That's right.
round. So we may be able to cover the whole thing, the 240.
That's right.
That's our hope.
And this would be the 1920 school year.
That's correct. You're right. So we have to bring this plan to the state by March 1. They just informed us of it a few weeks ago, of that deadline. But March 1 is the deadline to submit to them, and then we can begin expending the funds for next year.
But we are guaranteed this 227,000?
That's the floor, as Marilyn
Okay.
said, that our goal, or I should say our anticipation, is that it's going to be more than the amount listed there. So that's the floor, that's the minimum that's been allocated already in the state budget based on our number of students who meet this criteria. Criteria. But as Marilyn said, that there are a number of school districts who perhaps have a lower percent of their students who are qualifying for these funds because they have a more ethnically diverse student body and therefore don't necessarily have a high percentage of students that fit this category that would warrant being able to build out programs specifically targeting them. That if they leave those funds on the table, then those will get reallocated back out to the schools who did submit plans, or the districts who did. And so we do anticipate that the allocation will increase.
And while it is only 1 year, assumably those assessments that are created could then
exactly
carry
right.
over.
That's exactly
so it
right.
would have impact in future years.
That's right.
Speaking of bean counting, the accountant, we'll refer to you as the accountant when you leave. How do you account for, if they allocate certain money to you and we don't know who the TOSAs are,
right,
then it would seem to me that you obviously want to use up all that money by allocating the TOSA positions to teachers who are going to use up all that money. You know what I mean? I mean, if you have a teacher that makes it at the very lowest rung of seniority and had 3 of those, then you wouldn't necessarily use up your full allocation on the TOSAs, right?
It's a salary.
Yes, in principle, you're correct.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. I mean, 80 is probably close to the minimum at this point.
Right, because
With
once you
all
factor in
in,
benefits
yeah.
and everything else.
Yeah.
The lowest spot on our salary schedule is all in about 68,000, 70,000. And so the 80,000, puts us not too far above, step one, range one, or range one. But, so there's always, the reality is the expenditures will be there. We'll certainly meet the expenditures. Now, the true cost of the district is going to be a bit different because, as you know, if you have layoffs, it's the last one in, first one out, and so the actual savings that come from layoffs is going to be in that lowest salary range.
Right.
And so, we actually, as a district, will have a little general fund, unrestricted fund relief by being able to have, in all likelihood, at least some of these 3 teachers will have higher level of experience and will be able to allow us to maintain the lower cost teacher in the classroom.
Yeah.
Wait, so I don't understand that. So the 80,000 is not what the teacher is?
We don't know who. No. That's a placeholder right now based on an estimate of.
I see.
So no, this is not what their salary will be. Their salary will be based on their current step and column.
Okay.
But
So that's, now I understand your question.
Any other questions, comments, motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second. Go ahead, Michael.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Aye.
Present for all. I know you were. Still, every now and then.
You're
I feel
dreaming
good.
it.
I appreciate
For the days.
I appreciate your help. All in favor? Aye. That was unanimous. See, that's the part that I add in there.
That's the value added.
All right, Measure J project update. Andy?
This is one that we just have as our placeholder to make sure that the public and you receive the financial information, but there's been very little to update you on since our meeting 3 weeks ago.
Okay, moving on to 7.5.1. There was a community member who came and suggested we adopt a climate change resolution. A number of board members wanted to put that on the agenda, and it's here. Any questions, comments? I'll just throw out my feeling. I'm not a proponent of passing resolutions with just a political statement. If we were actually doing something, that's something that I would want to get behind, but I'm not in favor of resolutions that are just general like this. So I won't be voting for it, but
Well,
I think some
actually-
of you will be.
I felt the same way. I'm hesitant to get politically involved in something, but that's why this resolution, let's see. So in addition to just saying, it's a call to climate change action. So the actions would be, let's see. Well, the Ojai Unified District recognizes climate change, and climate change as a social and equity issue affecting all our students. But we agree, I'm trying to think, where is that in here?
It's in-
Is it second page?
The second page.
Okay, so we agree, our action, not just is to, yes, we recognize climate change as scientifically based and affecting our students, but that by passing this resolution, we are encouraging environmental K through 12 education and climate science. We will be creating edible gardens, which we already have, edible gardens on campus and utilizing them in place-based teaching, which happens through our gardens, our food for thought. Reducing our reliance on fossil fuels by installing solar panels, which we've already discussed as something as a possibility.
But we've already voted against doing that.
Only the elementary
At the
sites. We still have it
elementary
on allocated for Matilha and Nordhoff.
Promoting a climate-friendly food service, including initiatives for increased plant-based and reduced meat-based and food waste reduction, which we're doing already.
Thrills me.
And with our food, our local, foods from buying from local farmers, and reducing our, we got rid of the styrofoam trays. So we've done already a lot of these, but I'm gonna keep going. Installation of LED lighting, which we've done, supporting school-based green sustainability initiatives, which are several of our campuses have done. But I think this is the final thing is very important, that this will be sent to the Superintendent of County Schools, the State Superintendent of Education, the California State Board of Education, Congressional Climate Solutions Caucus, the California State School Boards Association, the National School Boards Association, our state and national representatives, our congressmen and our senators in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C., and to the Schools for Climate Action campaign. So that we as a school are saying, we're doing all these things, which we're already doing. But, so it's sort of like, oh, we're already doing that, why do we need this resolution? Because then this resolution is sent to all these groups saying, these are the things our school is doing, and we're making a call to all schools to do this. And to our representatives in Sacramento and in DC to choose legislation that recognizes the need for climate action. That's why it's important to me.
I would totally agree with you, Jane, and I was really excited to see, as I was reading through here, I had the same reactions. The things that we are doing and that I would like to see us do more of, but also, as I was reading, I thought, but we need to send this out. We need people to know, and I was thrilled to see that we are sending those to all those different policy writers, that we need climate action. And we are, as a school board, deciding that we want to give voice to that.
I was comfortable with all of it, including what we're doing. The only part that I was really a little bit uncomfortable with is this specific recommendation of carbon taxing and revenue and stuff like that. For me, it's enough to say climate change is an issue. We're doing a lot of important things. We encourage Congress to do something too. I'm not sure I necessarily want to take a stand on specifically what that should be. But otherwise, I don't.
Was that on the first page?
No,
That's on the
second
second, I can see that.
goes on
So that
Congress.
now therefore be it resolved.
Yeah, take swift and effective action on climate change, and it
To
says
protect
such as
current and
enacting,
future-
yeah, just go right to protect the students, because I don't know that we
Fine.
want to start being that prescriptive. 'Cause
I agree.
we really I don't know enough about whatever we're talking about there.
Well, and interestingly, I think lately there's been a pivot away from some of the
Yeah, it's not the
traditional,
end
certainly
all
the
be all.
carbon neutral or cap and trade stuff seems to be, because people are realizing it's not enough. I'm all in. I mean, I think it's someday we will look back on this time and be shocked that we didn't see the threat for what it is. And certainly, as a school district, I think we can very much plant our flag with science. And I think number one is, by far the most important and most directly relevant to what we do as a school board, encouraging environmental K through 12 education and climate science.
So, Mike, are you asking if we
But I'm
to strike
fine to
this?
take out that
So
parenthetical.
I'd move to approve with that edit.
I'll second.
To be clear, the edit is to remove the such as enacting revenue neutral carbon
Yes,
fee and dividend.
that entire phrase.
Great, so there's a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No? So it carries 4-1. All right, moving on to 7.5.2, the appointment of the Summit Elementary School 7-Eleven Committee. And did you want to?
Sure. So I will be sending around the list of the names that the subcommittee is recommending to you to approve. Actually, I'll send the rest this way, and Kathy, if you can send out to the group. So as you know, you guys voted in December to authorize the convening of a 7-Eleven committee to analyze the future potential uses of the Summit Elementary School site. We conducted a period of roughly a month and a half of soliciting interest from the community to submit applications. That deadline was on the 25th of January, and then just last week, Thane, Shelley, and I met to review those 28 applications that came in, and we are putting forward to you a recommendation on these 11 to make up the 7-Eleven committee. It was incredibly challenging for us as we reviewed the applications. Any one of the 28 would have been a great addition to this committee. Ultimately, part of what drove the decision was that Ed Code actually is pretty prescriptive on the 7 categories that you must, boxes that you must check as far as the constituents that need to be represented. An example would be that you have to have a teacher, and so we have Kate Spiva representing teachers. You must have a school administrator. Cheryl Knox is our administrative representative, and then the other 9 individuals meet the various categories of being representing parents within the district, representing business community, representing individuals with knowledge on land use or building and zoning and those sorts of categories. So again, we had 28 wonderful
And
candidates.
if I could add, constituents in the Upper Ojai area. So we wanted to make sure that they were represented.
That's exactly right. So that's what Ed Code requires of us. And then, the feedback that I heard from you 5 and previous meetings, and certainly what we as a subcommittee were looking to, was making sure that this was not a committee that was truly statistically representative of the entire district, that we were giving it obviously a significant slant toward the Upper Ojai community to make sure that the Upper Ojai community had a voice in these deliberations. And so what you'll see is actually 6 of the 11 have strong connections to the Upper Ojai community, whether or not it's with Summit School, with Rock Tree Sky, with the Upper Ojai Council, longtime residents, grandparents of former students, of former students. So we certainly tilted toward making sure that the various stakeholders in Upper Ojai have a voice, but obviously we also felt it would have been inappropriate and would have been against the spirit of Ed Code had we gone exclusively with Upper Ojai voices, because this is a district decision, ultimately your decision. This is a recommending body to you, but the decision for this school site will have an impact district-wide, and so again, that's why we are putting forward this recommendation. This committee will likely, I don't want to estimate, I don't want to make a guess, but I will say that it's likely that they will meet fewer times than the last 7-11 committee, and be more likely to meet somewhere in the same realm that our attorney spoke to us about a number of years back when he said that typically 7-11 committees meet 3 or 4 times. We already have a facility study that was completed in 2015 that is still current and appropriate, and so we've already done some of that legwork. The demographic information we're pulling as we speak, and so we are going to be convening this committee after, if you guys approve this group. I'll be surveying them tomorrow for availability and begin meeting very soon. Our goal would be to take the time necessary to arrive at the best decision to recommend to you. But ideally, that would be insufficient time for planning for next year for both Rock Tree Sky as well as other potential users of the space. So that's the recommendation to you.
Great. Do we have any questions, comments, or a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve. It looks like a strong list.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That was unanimous.
Thank you for doing the work.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank these people who volunteered.
Yeah, a big
all
thank you
20
to everybody who
were-
volunteered, and kudos to Shelley and Andy and me. It was actually took us quite a lot of time because it was difficult to narrow down that list.
And to really balance it. Yeah.
All right, 7.5.3, rescheduling of 2 regular board meetings.
Yep, so we've had request from a board member to look at moving next month's meeting from the 13th to the 6th. And also we scheduled the June meeting for that Wednesday, the 5th, to maintain continuity of our Wednesday theme this year. But we knew that we had a conflict with Senior Awards Night at Nordhoff, and we've been working with them trying to reschedule their event. We were not able to, and so to allow for this board to potentially attend, as well as to avoid that conflict, we're putting forward both these for formal approval from you. The reason that we actually need formal approval on this, different than in times past, for instance, last month when we moved our January meeting by a week without official board action, is that the March and the June meetings are 2 of the most heavy on Ed Code required topics. March is the potential layoff resolution of staff, as well as second interim budget revision. June is when we have the first version of the budget for next year, as well as the LCAP, and so those have to be at regularly scheduled meetings. And the definition of by Ed Code of a regularly scheduled meeting is one in which you've taken action on a prior meeting to schedule. So that's why we're having to do this more formally than we typically do, which is just change a meeting if something comes up.
I'll move to approve the two changes.
The only conflict I see is that the June 4th, we're now on spring band concert.
We're gonna have a conflict either way, given
I
the
missed the
current
winter
makeup of the board and having a board member with a senior who is likely to be awarded greatly at that meeting or that night. We felt this would be a less intrusive conflict.
I'll arm wrestle you for it, Kevin. What do you say? I'm kidding.
I can appear by iPhone.
I just feel guilty. I missed the winter concert already, so now I'm missing both. But that's fine.
I mean, we could, I mean, it's a ways off. We could all try to figure out a better time. I mean, I hate missing concerts too. I mean, it seems like there are days when there aren't district events, and it's
Not in
a
June.
double whammy.
Yeah.
Not in June, and I think we're down to.
We must meet in the that first week of June, and so if you guys want to look at Monday, I mean, we've held Monday meetings in the past. Do you see? Does anyone have the app up on the new website? See if we have conflicts on the event calendar.
The third is Matilaha Elementary Strings Spring Concert.
On Monday.
On June 3rd. No.
Does
I
any?
don't have any.
I don't have a kid that plays a string. I just have a kid that plays a.
The band,
Me
is,
too.
the
Oh,
band
really?
is the next day. I don't know. These come through from.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to go to the Matilaha
thing.
concert.
So it looks like Matilaha's concerts 2 nights in a row. One is the spring or the strings, and the other is the band.
But we're both banned.
So if you both are banned, then perhaps that means that Monday, well, we would not like to miss that. That may be the least
What's
disruptive.
Thursday?
So the meeting, yeah.
Thursday the 6th, actually, I don't see anything that Kathy's put on my calendar for school events.
I don't see anything.
Apparently, Oslo has a nail appointment.
She's gonna kill you.
I don't want to interfere.
So Monday,
I don't know how it got on
I'm
here.
the
but-
best
On
she
the
schedules
6th,
that far
doesn't mean that
out.
a school hasn't posted yet, but I don't see anything yet on the 6th.
so should we do have time, should we schedule it for Thursday, June 6th? And then if we find a conflict, we can talk about it next month.
Works for me.
Okay?
Thank you all.
Yeah.
So do we have a motion for those two dates?
I'll move to approve the moving of the Wednesday, March 13th to Wednesday, March 6th, and the moving of Wednesday, June 5th to Thursday, June 6th.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 That was unanimous. Superintendent's report, 7 o'clock. Doesn't mean you can go to 9. So,
You know, guys,
your
I intended to have something for each of these meetings, and today was a day that got away from me, and I actually do not have a superintendent report today.
You don't have anything currently interesting?
We have lots going on, but nothing that merits the report tonight.
all right, board member reports.
Kevin, I was hoping you could mention, you were mock trial, you were on the newsletter this week.
Yeah.
Well,
Celebrity.
we are, it's interesting because we are not remotely a super type A version of a mock trial squad. So there's a big deal among the teams. There's 30 teams or so in Ventura, and the big question was, should everyone learn who their competition is before, or should they show up on the night and then only find out in the moment? Because there could be scouting going on, there could be the use of satellite imagery, you know. And so I don't get the emails, but Monson does, so he asked me my opinion, and I said, no, let's get the information. So he apparently broke the tie.
Oh, really?
And we got the information, so we just found out today, so we're going up against, in the first round, our prosecution, so the night, there are 2 nights, and each night so we have a small team, so it's great, everyone does a lot. So we only have enough kids so that if you're not on the prosecuting team, you're typically if you're not a lawyer on the prosecution team, you are a witness for the prosecution team. So each team, each side provides its own witnesses. So the prosecution for direct testimony provides its own 4 witnesses. So we're going up against Calabasas in the first round, which I think is their first time doing mock trial in a while, except for I checked them out and they won like the academic decathlon
Yeah, they just
or
did an
something.
academic.
So they're going to be super high achieving. And then we go against Royal, which is a Thousand Oaks school? Simi school, with our defense. Then the next day, we start with a defense against Santa Paula, and then we end with like perennial like state champion Santa Susana.
Oh, boy.
So it's gonna be fun. It's on, as I say. I will say Shelley's daughter is one of the only participants who seems most of the time to have read the material. So we are, but you know, it's gonna be, it's really fun, and the learning curve is always steepest now, so we'll be fine.
Well, and I have to tell you, after she did it last year, she came away saying, I can now speak in public. I didn't know I could do
She's
that
great,
before.
yeah.
I can now do that. So
awesome.
she is very into it and very
Yeah,
excited to
she's
be doing
excellent.
it, and
Well,
texted
thanks for
me on.
doing that, Kevin.
No,
That's really-
I mean, it's a, you know, I think my approach to it is unconventional, because I'm, you know, I'm cool with, you know, kind of a laissez-faire approach,
With
but I
one
have been
person
sending,
reading
I have,
after.
after seeing our competition, I have been texting them today a lot.
Well, you're not wearing a tie tonight, so we can see your laissez-faire, you know.
Yeah, totally.
You're an unconventional lawyer.
Only thing I was gonna mention, which I'm sure is all in all of our minds, is Ms. McCoy's comments and agendizing that group to be able to come
That's the next item.
oh, okay, that's true.
Items for future agenda, we can combine the two. I have officially combined the two, so items for future
I
agenda.
forgot that they are distinct issues, so.
I agree, I would like to put it on there.
Yeah, I'd like to know what they're talking about monitoring, tracking of the LCAP. I didn't quite understand what that was, so.
Well, I think we already are, but maybe they just need the information, and if they're here, and then also if we are, you know, it's sort of like, well, this group is forming, it's like, well,
Who are you?
you know, have we are we going to recognize them, or are they just gonna be, I mean, there was that group, the church group for a while that was helping out
With
all over, you know, they
volunteer.
were just, yeah, kind of doing their own thing, which is one thing, but if they want information on diversity and input on programs, and I think it needs to be a little more formal. Or, I mean, it could
Or
be
at least a way for them to interact with us.
Right,
If we
right.
want to do that.
Perhaps liaison, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be like, oh, you have to apply and we can accept you, you know what I mean, anybody
Right.
could come and be a part of it, like a PTA is.
Right.
But there needs to be, you know,
A way,
plan or-
yeah, a plan. So should we discuss that at our next meeting?
Yeah, and maybe someone can reach out to her and, you know, and sort of have some interaction. I mean, I think it looks like some of what's going on is that frustrating thing for us where we feel like we message as well as we can, but like, you know, LCAP meeting, and then no one shows up, and then someone shows up and says, I need, you know, why aren't you doing any LCAP? So some of it is probably, there's learning that's
Gap
gonna
in
go on both
communication.
sides of this, but more the better, right? More engagement, the better.
Well, and it might be simply, you know, having another forum, right, so Cheryl can tell them all, I mean, we've been getting information on all the stuff that was happening on Matilah, certainly the parents and teachers at Matilah know, but does the community know about, you know, the defamation, Anti-Defamation League coming in and doing those, that was in the newsletter,
Mhm.
but the
Right.
community doesn't get the newsletter, right, only parents get the newsletter.
And I think she said that that group wants to become part of the formal process of choosing the superintendent, so we'll need to
Have a conversation.
address that.
Do you think that actually needs to be an agenda item also, the superintendent, I mean, not what, you know, not people's names and all that, but just, because I've heard that from some teachers as well, you know, because you know, do we need to explain?
Maybe we'll put that on the agenda to have a public discussion of the process that we're following, but, I mean, I think we're following a process and we're not going
Properly,
to change
right.
it.
Right.
Right.
On a different topic, I want to bring up a potential agenda item or event. You know, Kevin, you keep bringing up or have brought up going out to the schools, and we talk about it and then it doesn't happen, and I would like to really move forward on it. I feel like with this summit issue, and hearing from parents, there's still a lot of unsettledness in how people are feeling at the different schools and wondering if more schools are going to close or what is happening. And I think also with the early literacy initiative, we kind of come up with these ideas and we move forward, but I would love to see us pull together as a whole district. I feel like the elementary schools specifically are often more in competition with each other than we're all driving a bus in the same direction. And I think if we did a lot more outreach and had town hall style meetings at the different elementary schools, I don't know that bringing a board meeting to the elementary school is going to engage people, but offering an open conversation, I think we would get participants and hear from parents in a more strategic way as to what they're seeing on the ground, what they're feeling, how things are going, so that we can, you know, ultimately I would love to pull together a master plan for the district so that we know what our goals are and what our vision is for going forward in the future so that we can all be pulling in the same direction.
So you're pulling it off the parking lot?
I'm kind of pulling it off of the parking lot and saying, you know, I think really I'd like to talk about the timing because depending on, you know, when the new superintendent comes on board, I think that superintendent should hear this, but that will be the summer. So I don't want to push it too far, but I think that we need to talk about timing and really make it happen.
Without discussing it too much, I guess my feeling about doing the board meeting is that, you know, for us all to be anywhere, it has to be a board meeting, so why not just make it a board meeting and do the other business as well as open it with a forum for that particular place.
I suppose that could work.
I think that's discussing it too much, I don't know.
Should we discuss it next month?
Sure.
We can put
Then we can have an open discussion about what
Okay.
it means and how it would work.
what
and-
it looks like. Okay.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? Sounds good. Anything else? Wow, look, everybody's talking now that we're not tired. All right, moving on to the consent calendar.
I actually have a question
Sure.
before we vote on it. 8.4.9, is this, I'm confused, it seems sort of like the board policies that we read, and is this we're not gonna be doing board policies?
This was just a small item that was a finding of the audit that we're currently going through for nutrition services. It's something that we've already corrected, and so there does need to be a board policy that commemorates that. And so I inserted it as part of the consent calendar, thinking that it was not going to be too controversial. But no, we still, when you have larger board policy packets coming to you, you'll still get them as you always have. This was just for the ensuring that students are not held until the end of lunch if they're in detention before they're able to get their meal.
And so that bolded language in the agenda item,
That's
that's
the
the
addition.
only change?
That's right. That's right.
I'll move to approve consent calendar.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, and we will adjourn.